What's up guys? So right now we're going to do another quick comparison between the iPhone X and the iPhone XS. Well, obviously the phones haven't been released yet, but we're just going to do a quick comparison to see which one, if you have an iPhone X, should you update, if you should get an iPhone XS, if you have an iPhone 4, if you should get an iPhone X, all that good stuff. Now one thing I want to quickly state is that both phones are the same exact size, the same 5.8-inch AMOLED screen. I don't think they really made too much of a difference with the screen. I think it's the same. It's the exact same PPI, same type. It's the same exact body, same exact everything. Apparently they did fix the glass. Apparently it's a little bit more sturdier, I guess. But even at that, that's kind of a minor upgrade. It's going to be pretty much the same exact body. The really cool thing about the XS though is that it does have dual SIM support. So you can put two SIMs in one phone. Whereas on the regular iPhone X, you only have a single SIM support. Which, I mean, for a lot of people, is still going to be a valid option. I don't think a lot of people are going to use the dual SIM support unless, one thing I see, as Apple stated, if you're on a business trip in a foreign country, you don't want to necessarily swap out your SIM every time. You can literally just go and just switch to another SIM temporarily and just put it in and then take it out whenever you're done with it without having to remove your actual SIM. Or if you want a home phone or a work line, you can do that too, and that's actually really convenient. And that's really the main difference between the hardware, because that is a hardware effect. They would have to change the SIM card somehow, so now it's going to be able to support two SIMs pretty much. So really the main difference was actually within the chipset inside. So as you know, every year Apple changes it up. On the iPhone X, they have the i11 Bionic chip. On the iPhone XS, they have the Apple A12 Bionic chip. And obviously it's going to be faster, it's going to be better. But in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be like crazy amounts of faster. I don't think it's going to be crazy amounts ahead of what we already have. I think of more so it's kind of like an incremental upgrade. I honestly think the difference between the iPhone X and the XS is going to be less than the change we had between the iPhone 7 and iPhone 8. So I think it's going to be better, of course, but I don't think it's going to be like a million times better or anything. And maybe that's not what they're saying. They didn't say anything like that. I think it's more so they kind of alluded to the fact that it's a little bit less power hungry and it doesn't really take as much power to run certain apps. And they said they can run a certain amount of apps, I think 5 trillion operations per second, versus on the iPhone X where it was 600 billion or something like that. So an improvement for sure. Another cool thing is that the iPhone XS does have an extra gigabyte of RAM. So that is actually pretty cool. And a lot of people can actually use it. And I know with my specific usage, it's not that crazy. I don't play that many games. I just play like Bloons Tower Defense or Paper IO or something. In terms of the average person, you will probably not notice or need the extra gigabyte of RAM. But for all those power users, I think it's definitely a cool feature to have. I will say one of the stranger differences between the iPhone X and XS is actually the lack of any new resolutions for the camera. I don't think cameras are really improving that much anymore. I think we're at a point where it's like as good as it's going to get. But they both have 12 megapixel cameras. They're both dual sensors. A cool thing, they both have OS and everything. A strange thing though that I found was that they both support the same video resolution. So 4K at 24 frames, 30 frames, and 60 frames. And that's particularly on both. You can do that on both. And 1080p at 30, 60, 120, and 240 frames per second. And that's on both. So there really wasn't too much of a difference in terms of the back camera. Probably is better. I know there's the smart HDR feature which is really, really cool. I know a lot of people are going to use it. But the iPhone X that already exists does have regular HDR. I will love to see the difference between those, and when I do get the iPhone XS in-house, I'll be able to fully test that and everything. But really, I'm actually pretty surprised they didn't even add any new resolutions in terms of the camera. But with that being said, they did add a resolution with the front camera, and now usually it only tapped out at 1080p at 30 frames per second, but now we can actually do 1080p at 60 frames per second on the iPhone XS. So that is definitely a nice feature. I stated that if you're a vlogger, if you're a YouTuber or something like that, 60 frames per second really does enhance your content a lot. For me personally, I do not use 60 frames even when I shoot these videos. I only use 30 frames because it takes up less memory and it's just easier to edit and export and stuff. But for a lot of people, they actually welcome that change, and that's actually really nice. I don't see a lot of people using it like that, but it's definitely a nice feature to have. And I can't wait to get the iPhone XS in-house so I can actually test that. And since we are on the front camera, I want to say both Face ID sensors have stayed the same, so there's going to be not that much of a difference. They said there's faster algorithms and a smarter this and that. I really don't think it's going to be that much of an improvement. I think it's going to be more so, they didn't even name it Face ID 2, so it's really just an improvement of Face ID, but not too much of an improvement. But definitely, I don't even think Face ID is that horrible, so at least we have something like that. At least it's an improvement. Now here's the one thing that kind of irks me, and Apple does this with every single version of their phone that stays the same body. With the iPhone 6 series, they did it, the 6 Plus series, and they're doing it here too. they have 100% decreased the battery. Now, I have not been able to see the amount of milliamp hours that is in it, but from what I can tell, I mean, the talk time has actually went down from 21 hours on the iPhone 10 to 20 hours, and the music play has stayed the same. And the iPhone 10 right now has a 2716 milliamp hour battery. I honestly see the iPhone 10s having like a 2600 milliamp hour battery, just based off these specs. But the weird thing is though, is that Apple did state that the battery life or battery usability has improved by 30 minutes, which is kind of a strange thing to say. But with that being said, I really do think that the overall battery size did go down. Could it be that you could have better battery life on a smaller battery? Of course, you can always do that. And with a new chipset, it could be that way. But I feel like they could have kept the same battery size or made it even bigger. I don't know. Someone's going to have to open this phone and check it out, or open the 10s. But I still think that's kind of weird that that was the case though. But if the battery life has gone up, then I guess that's an improvement. But I do think the battery size has gone down. So some closing thoughts. I definitely think the iPhone 10 versus the iPhone 10s is a much better comparison than like an iPhone 10 versus the iPhone 10R. You should stay away from an iPhone 10R. I would not even recommend that at all if you already have an iPhone 10. But the iPhone 10s looks to be a pretty decent upgrade. Is it going to be an amazing upgrade from an iPhone 10? Probably not. I honestly would say probably just keep your iPhone 10. I don't think you're going to notice that much of a difference. But maybe the iPhone 10s Max, which is the bigger brother to the iPhone 10s, might be an improvement. I will do a comparison on that in a little bit. But from what I can say and from my initial thoughts, I can probably tell you that if you already have an iPhone 10, you might as well probably just keep it. It's really not worth the extra money, because the iPhone 10 right now, from just even a couple months ago, not even like a month ago, when I did my analysis, I saw that the used price for the base price, 64 gigabytes, was about $670, $669, something like that. But now with the iPhone 10s, it's about twice that price. And I can tell you the iPhone 10 is going to go down in value even more. Of course, Apple is not making any more iPhone 10s, but you can always get it in the used market. One other thing I want to note is that the iPhone 10s does come in an extra size, the 512 gigabyte, where the iPhone 10 just stopped at 256 gigabytes. So if you need a lot of memory, then maybe the iPhone 10s is a better choice. But I would say overall, if you're kind of in the mood for getting the most of your money, maybe the iPhone 10 is there. But the iPhone 10s is also not a bad option as well. I think another huge difference too for the average user is the IP68 waterproof that the iPhone 10s has versus the iPhone 10, where it's only IP67 dust and water resistant. So it is kind of an important thing to know too. I mean, for a lot of people, if you're a hiker, if you're this, if you're that, if you're an athletic person, maybe having a phone that can handle more, weather conditions, if you're biking, if you get some water on it, it's not going to hurt it. If you get water on either the iPhone 10 or the 10s, it's not going to hurt it. But if you dip your phone in a pool, for example, and Apple actually used this example, if you throw your phone in your pool by accident, you'll be able to pick it up fine on the iPhone 10s. Versus on the iPhone 10, it is possible that it will get water damaged. And if you guys don't remember my iPhone 10 that I had not too long ago, where I made a video about, that one actually had water damage. Even though this phone is water resistant, it still was able to get water damage, and it wasn't even able to be turned in or fixed by Apple at all. And that same thing could happen with the iPhone 10, but the 10s is waterproof up to 2 meters for 30 minutes. So that's really cool. And like I said, if you're in an area of where you're really afraid of water conditions, or you're around water a lot for some reason, maybe getting an iPhone 10s will be more beneficial to you. But I will say, even at that, the iPhone 10 is still a very good deal in my opinion. I don't think you can go wrong with either phone, but I do think the iPhone 10s is just a little bit expensive. It's kind of expensive, you guys gotta admit. So, I mean, you guys work hard for your money, so I don't want to make your decision for you. But I will say that the iPhone 10 is, if it was me and I didn't have a YouTube channel or anything, and I didn't have to go out and get these things, I would probably just keep my iPhone 10 or just buy an iPhone 10. I wouldn't necessarily go and buy an iPhone 10s. But that opinion can be changed a little bit once I do have it in my hands, because this is just an initial thought, initial video, We don't have any of them, so yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it at. Hopefully you aren't confused. If you have any questions, or you agree with me or disagree with me, leave it down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Definitely hit that like button. That'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber we get really does count, and it'll mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also, check out my second channel, Lo-Fi Alpaca. That is linked down below too, so you guys can go and check that out. That'll mean so much. You guys know, I love you guys when you guys check out the links in the description. Oh, also my Twitter and Instagram, that is also linked down below. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, till then.